Good morning. So here's a little help for lab number 1, circuits 2 for 2021. So you have installed Proteus. I showed you that in the previous video. You just have to double click on the icon and you get the password. And the password is the same that is in your Mile. But what I suggest is that you put in the password and then you store login details. So this in theory should allow us to get the license, and next time it will not ask you for your password again. A few things just to, well, let's go for it. I've already started a project. I just want to show you something. When you put a resistor in, and don't worry if you're not following me, I'm going really fast, but I'll explain it in a second. When you put a resistor in, the resistor actually looks like this, which is not the way we in North America are used to seeing it. In order to change that, and at the same time verify, do not save changes, no, verify that our password was saved, I'm going to close Proteus. I'm going to start it again. And yes, Proteus takes a little bit of time. So if you want to change that and you want to have it with the kind of like the zigzag for a resistor, then you have to go to System Settings before you even open a project. And you have to go to Library Locale North America. And you say, okay. And then unfortunately, you have to close Proteus again, and you have to open Proteus again. And then we will have the zigzag instead of the little square. Unfortunately, any old project you started with the old settings will not be switched over. So I'm going to show you now how to start a new project. It's very simple. You click on New Project. You put a name that you want. So I'm going to put Lab 1 because that's what we're working on. And we say next. You can choose any landscapes, the different sizes of paper. I'll leave it to landscape A4. That's fine for me right now. We do not have a PCB layout. We will not work with PCB layouts in this course. And no firmware project. So we just say next and we finish. And we get a blank paper with some information at the bottom that I'm going to show you right now how to fill in. It's nice to have this filled in when you work, especially if ever you're going to print this and present this to your teacher. So in order to change that, you go into Design, Edit Design Properties, and you have the information here. So you can put a title, Lab 1, and document number, you don't have one. Revision, if you want, you can put it 1.0, and the author, well, you put your name, right? There you go. And you say, okay. And it doesn't look like it's updated, but it actually is. It just takes a little bit of time. When you click once, everything goes in there. So if I'm zooming with the little wheel on my mouse, zooming out and in, and I see the information is filled in nicely. For our lab, what we need, it's a very simple to do in Proteus. So we're going to go to the component mode. We're going to go to the P here, which is pick components. We click on it and we get another screen. For me, it opened on another, on my main window, so I brought it here. And here we can search for anything we want to put in there. So in our case, we want to put a resistor. So I'm just going to type RES. I'm going to have a whole bunch of things, and you see I have the resistor here, and it is with the symbol that we used to, which is a zigzag. It's here, but I don't see it here. I'm just going to scroll down just a little bit, and it's right here, a resistor, generic resistor symbol that is perfect for us for this lab. And we say, okay. So by saying okay, we added it right here underneath the pick, we have a resistor. If we wanted to add something else, for example, let's say we want to add a battery. Let's say we were doing DC circuits. Well, we can just type battery, and we have a multi-cell battery. Sorry, a multi-cell battery, another multi-cell battery, and a cell, which is the image that I'm usually used to seeing for a battery. So I'm going to choose this one, and my mouse double clicks really easily, so it showed up. So I have here battery. I guess I double clicked on battery. I double clicked on cell. Cell is here, and the resistor. So let's start a drawing. So when you put it on, when you want to put it onto your drawing, as you saw how I did, I clicked once, or I highlighted the resistor, the part that I want to put on. I clicked once on the drawing, and as I'm clicking once on the drawing, it shows up in pink and it's all over the place. I can move it. And if I click a second time, it gets deposited on the drawing. You can click again, and because I'm working on a laptop, I don't seem to be able to access the plus sign. If you have a normal computer with a normal keyboard and you have the plus sign, you can use the plus sign to rotate your resistor. So it shows up, so it's rotated vertically instead of horizontally. I don't have that option, but I can still do it, just takes a little longer. So I'm going to put the 3 resistors I need for lab 1. And I know that I want to rotate this one, so I will hover over it, click it, click with my right mouse key, and I can rotate clockwise or anti-clockwise. So it is in the format that we have it in the lab. What I'm going to do to show a few things, I'm just going to add the cell. And as I'm adding the cell here, I can start connecting everything. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And as you see, as my pen hovers over the end of the battery or the end of the resistor, there is a red square that highlights, saying that if I click, a wire is going to leave with me. So I can click again, and I have made a connection between all of these. In order to change the values of any one of them, you can right-click and edit properties. You have R1, you can name it something else if you want, and you have 10K. Let's say I want a 1K resistor here. I can just edit to be 1K, press OK, and the resistor has changed. The resistor value has changed even for the simulation. I can also just double click the 10K and I get it. So I can change again here if I want to, let's say, a 2K resistor. Now there's something missing here. It's the ground. And the ground you will find right here under terminal mode. So I can find the ground. I can come and deposit it on the drawing, and then I can connect it. Okay. And now at any time, I can run the simulation, or I can stop the simulation. In the simulation, everything works as if it really simulates it. But in order to see what's going on, we have to add measuring tools. So the measuring tools are right here. And you have a whole bunch of them. And throughout the semester, we will learn about a few of them. And since right now we are in DC mode, I'm going to take the DC voltmeter and I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to connect it. And I'm going to start the simulation. And then I'm going to see that I can actually see what kind of voltage is on this circuit or on this resistor. Anytime you want to change something, be mindful that you cannot change anything. Like I'm pressing on delete right now. I'm trying to delete it, or I'm pressing with the right mouse key and it's not letting me do anything. The reason for that is that we are running the simulation. So we cannot change anything while the simulation is running. Keep that in mind at all times. So you stop the simulation and then you can delete parts that you did not need or you don't need anymore. For Lab 1, we are working with AC. So the battery is not good. That's not what we need. And for AC, it is a little bit different how the source is displayed. And it might create some confusion, but we'll try to take that confusion away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a wire just hanging in the air. And in order to leave it hanging in the air, I have to double click. And now I triple clicked, I'm sorry. So you double click and you create a dot here and it just leaves a wire there. So I'm gonna go to the generator mode. And the generator mode is, I'm gonna have a sine wave. I'm gonna generate a sine wave at a certain point, and it's kind of like a voltage source at that point. Unfortunately, the representation is a little bit misleading, is that it just looks like one little point, one little probe. You want to see that pink square that it created on the line to know that it is connected to the wire. So what you want to know, and you want to really understand that this is one side of the source generator, but the other side of the source generator is connected to the ground. It is not represented here, but it is there. So when you look at your lab, what I have done here is exactly the same as the drawing figure 3 that you have to create. So it's a sine wave source and 3 resistors. In order to edit the source, you double click on it. You can change the name and say source. Oops, I should not have pressed enter. You double click on it again. Sorry, sine wave. Offset, you do not want an offset right now. You want the amplitude or the peak. Be careful, these two terms are a little bit different than what we teach you in class. I guess this because it's a British, they might have a different denomination or a different way of speaking about the waves. So when they talk about amplitude, they're actually talking about a peak. And when they're talking about peak, they're actually talking about the peak to peak. So I don't remember the values that you need to have for Lab 1. Let me check. very quickly, if I have it here, you need to put an 8-volt peak to peak at a frequency of 1 kilohertz. So as I said, peak to peak is here at peak, and you need 8 volts, and you just put 8. And the frequency, you need 1 kilohertz, so that is 1,000 hertz. And you say, okay. And right now, what you have is exactly what is in your figure 3 AC series circuit measurement. I showed you a few minutes ago how to go get the DC voltmeter. But since we are not in DC, we are in AC, we need to take an AC voltmeter. Otherwise, we will not get the proper value. So we have the AC voltmeter, and we can put it right here if we want. We click off of it. Oops, the wire sometimes doesn't follow exactly where we want to bring it. So we bring it right here. And if you start, if you start the simulation, let me zoom back in. If you start the simulation, fatal simulation error. Oh, nice. What did I do wrong? Okay, let me try to figure out what I did wrong. So I actually have no idea what I did wrong 2 minutes ago. I simply deleted the AC voltmeter and I put it back in, and now I can simulate and I see how many volts I have over the resistor over here. Be mindful, these are not the values you have to put in your lab. The values are in your lab, written in the Word document. So this is just an example on how to get things done. You can put an AC voltmeter on each one of these resistors, across each one of the resistors. And if you want, you can also place one, but right now I'm in simulation mode, so it won't let me do it. So I stop. I can even place one across the source, so I can measure the source and I can simulate and see what's going on. So it takes like a second for the number to stabilize. Don't forget it's AC, it's fluctuating at first. So I hope this helps for lab number 1. See you in class.